Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to finish up this week with a creator request, which is where a band gets in contact with me and asks me to check out their music. And I do so because we discover some really awesome stuff this way. Today we have a request from a group called Lastborn. So we love your channel, we've watched almost every reaction that you've made, and now we've released a music video of our own. We thought it'd be a great idea to ask you if you would mind doing a reaction for the song Epiphany of Time. We'd love to know your opinion on it. So that's what we're going to check out today is Lastborn's Epiphany of Time. The description right here says post-metal from Belarus. Alright, let's get into this and see what's going on. Got some tremolo picking right here to start it off with. It's real heavy. Yeah, and they actually change back to the first chord, like half of a beat after the bar drops. Really interesting. I like that distant yell off to the side. Ooh, yeah, some offbeat hits right there. Yeah, they're actually playing around a lot with just prior or just after the downbeat of a new bar.
Every step towards the sun comes with a price.
Bring it down a little bit.
That I will pay with my own blood. As soon as I reach the oblivion, my skin will become stone, and it will turn me into a monument of senseless wandering. My bones broken, they will heal as I follow this winded path, trying to reach my demise. And I carry this fire like Prometheus, knowing that there will be nowhere to return.
Yeah, they stuck around a lot longer than I was expecting. Yeah, another one of those delayed hits. Playing around a lot with dissonance right here as well. Interesting. just really sitting in this groove. We had one variation on this idea, but I really love how the two guitars are doing. Well, we'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it later. Yeah, all right. I dug that. Had some really neat things going on in there. The first thing I want to talk about, well, it's on my mind. I just mentioned that I was going to talk over the song for it, but um, there's this duality in the guitar work going on. They're both doing the same thing. They're both tremolo picking 16th notes pretty rapidly, creating this nice texture on the floor, but also the ideas that they're moving through, the melodies they're creating, are two different ideas. One of them sits a little lower in the range, one of them sits a little higher, and there's some movement going on in the lower one that's a bit faster than what we hear in the higher one. So we kind of have this idea right here, and this one sort of moves around a little bit, and then we get a little bit of movement here, and then this one moves around for a little bit, and then we get a little bit of movement up here, and it's just this really nice back and forth between the two that it's it's almost like black metal counterpoint going on there, where we have a variety of dyads. But the interesting thing is that in most of the cases, one guitar is sitting on a note while the other one is moving, which means that we have sort of a pedal tone, even if sometimes the pedal tone is above the moving line. But we have this core note that everything can be judged against. All the other note distances can be judged against, and it allows for a fluid movement of emotion throughout all of these lines, and it's a really neat way to go about doing it, especially since it's not just one instrument playing a pedal and the other one playing a melody. We sort of get this back and forth where they alternate who has what role, and it was really neat. I didn't pick up on it till the end, so I don't know if it was prevalent in other places as well, but since this was the opening idea, the opening section that we saw at the end, I'm going to wager that it was there at the beginning, I just didn't hear it, which pretty typical. There is a lot of fuzz on these guitars. It's not as fuzzy as black metal, but I still have a hard time hearing past some of this stuff, and post metal does kind of take some, I don't know if inspiration is the right word, but it has a similar production style, especially since post metal tends to go towards that wall of sound vibe that black metal does as well, or at least old school black metal. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I love hearing those movements, and for whatever reason, I'm really getting keen on this 16th note tremolo picking thing. I've incorporated it into too many of my works lately, and it's just I don't know, I'm coming around to it real hard, right? Black metal I'm still growing on, but this constant 16th note attack rather than holding notes out, I really dig it. Something else that we need to talk about is the structure. There really isn't a lot going on here. There's basically three ideas. And we have our opening idea, which I thought was really neat. It did a core thing that we're going to talk about later, but it had a 4-bar phrase, but after our 4th bar, when we repeat the phrase, we go to the next bar and we loop it back to the beginning, and we should be returning to that initial chord. We delay it by like half of a beat. It isn't much, but it's just enough to feel the delay, to feel like we should have went there and we're here. All right. It's just that little bit of oomph. And this is something we're going to talk about, like I said, later. It pops up all throughout the song, but I noticed it here, and it really influenced the way that I listened to the rhythmic elements of the song. Not so much the rhythms individually, because a lot of this was just 16th note tremolo picking in the guitar work, but the rhythms of the notes overall when you perceive them outside of their attacks, and just look at when the notes change pitch. We also had some really light drumming here, which I thought was interesting. It was sparse. We have the tremolo picking from the guitars, providing a lot of intensity and forward drive, but the drums are just sort of chill, laid back, very sparse, lots of air to them. You get a snare hit, and then a cymbal crash, and then a couple of bass kicks, and then a snare hit, and it's just like all this space between the notes, and it gives itself weight, right? It applies the weight to the song that I think is alluded to in the guitar work, but because of the quickness of the notes, that kind of gives it a little bit more intensity, a little bit more forward momentum, while these heavier, sparser drum sections kind of feel like it drags it down a little bit and sort of offsets that drive and momentum. I think it's a fantastic way to contrast that to achieve this specific goal. If they had followed in the footsteps of, say, black metal and allowed the bass kicks to do 16th note hits just like the guitars do, there would be too much forward momentum, too much drive and intensity to it. It would not have had that overbearing weight to it that I think they are aiming for. And something else that helps with this is the vocals. Just these wide, huge vocals that sit above everything in the mix. It really does sort of help bring everything down, which is interesting because I think it's just because of the largeness of the vocals and how each syllable is given importance. We don't really blast through the syllables. We're not singing quickly. We really just hammer in one or two syllables per beat, and really kind of makes the sound, give it the weight, the emphasis on each word that makes it feel grounded. But at the same time, the vocals are put way above everything else, which I think is an interesting choice. For me, it works. I am very used to hearing the lead melody line above everything else, very clearly understood. But I also hear some of this in other post-metal style of production, also a little bit of black metal, where the vocals tend to get pushed inside of the mix a bit and made it a little more difficult to hear so that the vocals can add a textural thing rather than being a spotlit element. And here they just really allowed it to be the spotlight. And I think it works well, especially, like I said, to achieve the kind of style that they wanted to go for. Now, this section gave way to the quiet section, which stuck around for a lot longer than I expected. And for better or worse, I think your mileage will vary depending on how much you enjoy this section, this style of music. Having a more pensive guitar line and a sparse instrumentation, I think it was just that one guitar line being pushed up against those really aggressive vocals. Just yelling, the volume was above it, the perceived volume, the way that I envision the volume of this vocalist in the studio, right? Not recorded, not, tweaked and EQ'd and all that, but like the volume that's required for him to achieve this sound. I perceive that to be loud. And of course it is a bit higher in the mix, so that's loud as well. And all of this is just sitting way up here, putting all this energy and aggressiveness against this calm guitar in the background. And it's not, calm isn't the right word, because there is some tension to the notes that are selected for it. But, it's a sparse guitar line. It's sitting there by itself, sort of. I'm just playing a couple of notes, back and forth. And it's, I think it works as a small transition idea, right? An interlude. But it stuck around for 12 bars, maybe 16 bars. It took up quite a bit of time here, and to me, it felt very tense by the end of it. And I think that might be the point of it as well. I just wasn't a big fan of sitting in this moment. Completely subjective idea right there. I don't want to say that it shouldn't have been done, or Lastborn, if you're watching this, I'm not saying that you should change it at all. It didn't really work for me in particular. But like I said, there's definitely going to be an audience out there for this type of music, and they probably really enjoy that section, but it does something very well that, of course, I can't deny, which is contrast. Not only does it contrast where we came from, but when we get back into it, it hits so much harder because of the length of it, of course. I think maybe if I were to offer a suggestion, it might be to add something in there, maybe about the halfway point, maybe just a second guitar line. Maybe harmonize what the guitar is doing, maybe do some counterpoint, just something to change it up a little bit in the middle and add a little bit of variation on the idea. I don't think we need to bring in drums. I don't think we need to have a big moment or add like a bunch of layering. Like that defeats the whole purpose of bringing it down to bring it back up. But just something in the halfway point. However, that's also going to take emphasis away from the vocals, and maybe the point of this section is to really drill home the lyrics here. So, again, it's just offering my subjective opinion here. I'm not saying it needs to change at all or that my suggestions need to be taken because I don't have insight into everything, right? You guys made this with a specific vibe in mind, and I'm going to assume that you knew what you were doing and that the end result is what you wanted out of it. The one device that really stands out to me, I already touched on it, but I want to talk about this more, is the rhythmic timing. There's so many elements that play around with landing on one and subverting the idea that we need to change on one with the bar. Across the song, we hear it in the A section and the C. I don't remember if we did it in the B section much. I just remember the guitar playing constant notes, slower, like eighth notes maybe, and then the vocals yelling over that. I don't remember what the chord progression was like there. But in the A and C section, certainly, we have chord progressions where the expected hits, which would be on the downbeat of a bar, specifically the first beat of a bar, if we're changing our chord every bar, just never happens. Maybe we change chords a half a beat before one. Maybe we change it half a beat after one. I think a couple of times we even changed it a full beat after one. And it was interesting because when we got to the C section, it actually made it really difficult to find one. And while I knew we were in 4/4, I never knew where we were in the phrase. Like I could count out the beat, I felt the rhythm, I just never knew what part of the bar we were in until we had that break and went back to the A section. I was like, oh, I got it now. Yeah, so like both of these sections just play around a lot with this idea, and I think they get a lot of mileage out of it, even if it is utilizing the same idea in a variety of different ways. The A and the C section are different enough, at least rhythmically, that they can be differentiated, but they differentiated them utilizing the same compositional device, which is really neat. It shows just how versatile and how much mileage you can get out of a single idea and just implementing it in different ways in your music. You don't always have to do something new and include a different idea just to separate a section of the song. You can just take something you already did and just do it differently. And as long as it's something that's going to stand out strong enough, that's really all you need to do. So I think it's really neat how they went about doing that. Alright, so let's take a look at these lyrics now. It says, I touch the fire as it burns and lights the way for a bleak prophecy of war and ruin. Silent messenger who runs blindfolded, I'm just a fading memory of time. So that's interesting. It says he touches the fire and it burns for a bleak prophecy. So it's like it passes on knowledge to him, right? The fire can be seen as like a type of light. It says, but he becomes a silent messenger. Oh, the prophecy, the information is war and ruin. So he becomes a silent messenger, though. He's supposed to deliver this prophecy, right? But he's silent, he can't speak it, and he's become blindfolded. He can't see where he's going. So, I don't know, let's see where this goes. Every step towards the sun comes with a price that I will pay with my own blood. As soon as I have reached the oblivion, my skin will become stone, and my skin will turn to stone, putting an end to my senseless wandering. And it will turn me into a monument of senseless wandering. My bones are broken, they won't heal as I follow this winding path, trying to reach my demise, and I carry this fire like Prometheus, knowing that there will be no return nowhere to return. So yeah, it's an impossible task, right? Calls it senseless wandering. He's supposed to be finding somebody he can deliver this message to, but he can't see. And even if he found the person, he can't speak. He can't deliver this message. He even says that as soon as he reaches the oblivion, he says he'll become a statue, putting an end to his senseless wandering. Which, yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. It's senseless wandering. Like I said, he's trying to get somewhere he can't see, and then even if he gets there, he can't even complete his task. My bones are broken; they won't heal. Yeah. He says, cover my wounds with a cloth soaked in despair. Hold my hands in yours and try to break them. Just call my name and I'll follow you to slaughter. And when I'm dead, let the cycle start again. So yeah, just filled with despair. He has this heavy weight on his shoulders. He can't complete the task no matter how hard he tries. And he's getting depressed by it. So he says, I'll follow you into slaughter. He says, when I'm dead, the cycle starts again. And then it ends with, I touch the fire, and as it burns and lights the way. So yeah, it cycles back to where we were at the beginning. Going back to the idea that when he dies, the cycle starts again. Okay. So yeah, I think this is pretty straightforward. It's about a person who comes upon this important information, but it gets locked inside their mind. They can't speak it. They can't see where they're going to deliver this message. And in all of their efforts, they just become full of despair and anger, and they just get so broken down because they can't complete this. They can't pass this knowledge on. So they're burdened with this prophecy of the future, and they can't do anything to stop it. So they seek out their own death, and unfortunately all that does is start the cycle over again, which is really neat because the song ends in the C section that says, when I'm dead, the cycle starts again. We go back to the A section, which brings back the lyrics from the A section, making the song cyclical, which I already talked about, which ties in well with the title. Very cool stuff. This also gives me a new perspective on the B section, the quiet section, because this is the part where you can really start to feel the weight of this quest that cannot be completed, really starting to put, really starting to bring him down. And I think it's really neat to hear this in that silent moment, just having the vocals and the guitar and really feeling his loneliness, right? I do think that section, or the lyrics, kind of imply a bit of vulnerability that I kind of wish we heard vocally, but at the same time, I think just hearing the frustration and anger and despair in the vocals with the yelling against that sparse guitar playing actually works as well, because we don't just get the vulnerability of it, we also get the frustration. And I think that's important for understanding why they would want to die. Otherwise, the ending seems a bit sad. Whereas where we have it right now with the anger and the frustration in that B section, the wanting to end the suffering feels more sympathetic rather than something a bit more on a sadder edge. So yeah, I think the song comes together, and it changed my perspective on some of the things that I wasn't too keen on listening to it. I think that works very well. Alright, those are my thoughts on Lastborn's Epiphany of Time. This is where you guys come in. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you thought of this one. Anything you'd like to add on to it, or anything you think I was wrong on, just want to correct me on it, go ahead and let me know in the comment section. Above that, there's a description box. In there is a bunch of links for Lastborn if you want to find any more of their music or their merch or find their social media pages. All that stuff is in there. Alright, that wraps it up for this week. Be back tomorrow with an album review. And then on Sunday, we have Patreon live stream. And on Monday, we're going to start next week's theme of Wild Screamers. Alright, until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical of the music you listen to. And have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening. Whenever you choose, watch my videos.